welcome to this Q&A. My name is Marcella and I'm a software engineer based in Los Angeles, California. This past week I asked you guys if you have any questions for me so I could film a Q&A. You guys pulled through, there's a lot. I might not answer all of them, but I'll do my best to get to most. I'll leave the questions and the timestamps below so you can skip around to whatever questions you want to hear the answers to. I did get a lot of questions on some topics I've made full videos about, like how much money software engineers make and interview prep materials and tips. I will just leave those videos below. They'll be more detailed than what I could answer in this video. Don't mind my background. I just moved into this place and I'm still a mess. I don't have a couch yet. I'm using my living room as a storage place right now. But yeah, ignore my background. As a disclaimer, this is obviously just like my opinion on things or one person's view of the world. This isn't just for my videos, but in general, when you're watching YouTube, do not take anything one person says to be like the ultimate source of truth. Obviously, make up your own opinions and do your own research. This is just my answers to these questions, but you may not agree or you may make up your own mind about it differently. Now that we got that out of the way, let's just jump into the questions. I really like this question. So it says, what's your background like? What do your parents do? How did you choose your path? For my background, my parents and I immigrated to the United States in 2006, so about 15 years ago. I'm originally from Albania. I was born there and lived there until I was 8 years old. My parents actually moved here because they won the green card lottery in Europe. Essentially, each year on their anniversary, they would apply for this lottery where you can basically be chosen to move to the United States and get a green card. And each year on their anniversary, they used to apply, and one year they won and we're here, which is kind of nuts because my whole life would be so entirely different if it wasn't for that lottery pick. Like, what the heck? That's just insane to think about. But anyway, yeah, we moved here in 2006. We didn't have much. My mom went to school when she got here, so she's now a nurse. And then my dad, he was in construction even when we lived in Albania. So when we got here, he worked for a construction company and now he actually owns his own small construction company. But yeah, they do well for themselves, but they worked really hard for everything they have. And then it says, how did you choose your path? Being that English wasn't my first language, I actually always sucked at like reading. So when it came down to school, I was always good at math. So it kind of just became a natural. I went to like a STEM focused high school. And at that high school, I had to take a coding class and that's kind of where it all sparked. And after that, I knew I wanted to be in this field. And it helped that the job prospects, especially currently, are very great. So that's a TLDR on my background. My most asked question was related to my future career goals. Do I want to be a software engineer forever? Do I want to become a manager? Do I want to go into product management? A lot of questions around that. My future career goals are I want to continue working for about another 2 years maximum and continue to build my savings. And then I hope to stop working a 9-to-5 in about 2 years. And then at that point, I want to just focus on building my own company. I want to have my own tech company, probably, but open to anything. So I just want to have my own business essentially. But yeah, the end goal is definitely CEO of my own company. Somebody asked, is a CS degree worth it? I think it's worth it. Without my CS degree, I wouldn't be living the same life I live now. Got a lot of great experiences in college and met a lot of people in college, which is also a really important portion of college, just making those connections and meeting friends and people you might work with in the future, etc., etc. And then in general, with my CS degree, that's opened so many doors for me. And yeah, I totally think it's worth it. It definitely depends on your own situation, but I know that there's a lot of talk of like, oh, you could just do a boot camp. And related to that, a lot of people asked about boot camps, like asking my thoughts on boot camps and whether they can replace a computer science degree. I don't think they replace a computer science degree, but coding boot camps teach you how to code. But there's so much more to being a software engineer than knowing like Python syntax or JavaScript syntax. In order to be a great software engineer and like build thoughtful, scalable systems, you need to understand the entire computing framework, all the different layers, understand how your code interacts beyond just the user interaction. Yeah, there's so much more to it than just knowing the syntax. I don't like the notion that some people say it replaces a computer science degree, but I do think like if you're looking for a career switch or if you went to college and did major in CS but you're looking to get into the tech field, I think it's definitely a great place to start. Some bootcamp software engineers end up getting a little bit of a lower pay, but after a few years of experience, you're basically on the same playing field. So I think they're a great place to start. Last thing to note, both with the bootcamp and a computer science degree, the learning doesn't stop in school or after your boot camp finishes. Camps try to sell you this like 12 weeks of learning and then you get like your amazing career. It doesn't end after just those 12 weeks or even just after your 4 years of work. There's always new technologies. There's definitely always more things to learn. Like if you're joining a new company, you're learning their architecture. You just gotta be willing to constantly learn and you should be good. TLDR is if I'm like a high school student and I'm gonna become a software engineer, I would choose to go to college over going to a boot camp. But if I'm like mid-career and I'm looking to do a switch, I would do a boot camp. Someone asked, is becoming a software engineer overhyped in this day and age? I feel like that probably comes from people who are just jealous of how well we get paid and all the perks and like how we get treated like royalty sometimes, which I agree, it's kind of annoying. I don't think we deserve any of the perks that we get, especially like those big companies. I can probably make a whole 30-minute video just listing out all the perks Google has. But in general, I don't think being a software engineer is overhyped. It's a great paying career. It's a very flexible career. Generally, there's a lot of great companies you can work for. Always encountering interesting problems. I don't think it's overhyped at all. Someone asked, how did you go about internalizing algorithms and other concepts when learning how to code? I think the biggest thing that helped me when I was in college and any time that I encounter some new technology now is to just do, but I'm a person that learns by doing, so it really depends on your learning style. For example, if there was some algorithm in school that I just couldn't understand, or like even if it was just a problem presented to me in a book and I just didn't really understand, I would honestly just copy the algorithm or the code into a code editor, add print statements everywhere, and just kind of like run through the algorithm with the computer. Like I said, I learned by doing, so finding a way to interact with the concept or apply the concept and kind of play around with it yourself is really the best advice I can offer. YouTube is a great resource, especially for a lot of computer science concepts. There's many people out there that make a lot of videos. Maybe watching a few different people explain the same concept, you might find somebody that resonates with you more than another person. So last thing is, if you're in school and your professor just doesn't resonate with you very well, there's this website called MIT OpenCourseWare, and they have a bunch of MIT classes, like lectures that you can watch. There's like an intro to CS one, there might be other topics. I'll link it below. It's a great resource if you need like a different professor to kind of explain maybe the same topics. Yeah, lots of resources on the internet nowadays. Somebody asked, can you give me advice to stop procrastinating? And then someone was like, do you procrastinate? Of course I do. I am human. I am the procrastinating queen. What I do is I reward myself with small things. So I'll tell myself I need to focus for 30 minutes, get this done, or like get a portion of this done, and then you can have a snack or you can go for a walk, take a 10-minute break and watch YouTube. So I'm a big incentive person, kind of like a Pomodoro like studying method before work. It's exert energy in like periods of time and you take small breaks in between. Somebody asked, do you have any budget-friendly money management tips for recent graduates, myself being 22 and trying to move out and live in LA as well? Yes, I do. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm saving a ton of money because I want to quit working for somebody else in a few years. So I could actually make another whole video just about how I budget and how I manage my money. But right now I'll just spew off a few things that have really helped me, at least post-grad. Obviously, you need to make sure you're keeping track of your expenses. I know budgeting can sound really stressful for some people, but for me, it's actually very freeing to know how I'm spending my money rather than not knowing and like constantly feeling like, oh, can I go out to this coffee shop? I feel like I spent so much money on coffee this past week. If I know that maybe I only spent $15 on coffee this past week, I feel confident that I can go spend another $5 at a coffee shop. I don't know, it's super freeing for me. But in general, you need to know how much money you're making, how much money you're spending, how much money you're saving. And then in terms of just things that have helped me save money over these last few years, one of them, it has to be living with roommates. This one is helpful because not only are you saving on rent, but for example, I lived with roommates these past 2 years and now I'm living on my own. I was able to acquire furniture slowly. So like for example, since I only had my own room to furnish before, I have all the stuff right now I need for my bedroom. I don't need to buy any new furniture for my bedroom. And then, you know, over the next year, I got a TV and a TV stand. So I have that now. And I have all the things for my kitchen. And now that I have my own apartment, The only place I need to really invest and buy furniture in is my living room, because I didn't have any living room furniture from before. I think I would be so scared to have to furnish this whole apartment on my own, like right out of college. So yeah, living with roommates. Second, cooking. I love to cook, so that's always super helpful. I love to go out to eat, but I do balance that out by eating the majority of my meals at home. Another thing is just not keeping up with trends. I obviously love clothes, I love decor, I love stuff in general. And there was a time when I would equate stuff to happiness. I'd be like, oh, I don't have that piece of clothing, or I don't have that really expensive bag. I think that was such a negative mindset, and that was because I was really just unhappy with my life. Once you start focusing on the things that matter, you realize the happiness you get from like a new pair of shoes or a new bag pales in comparison to the happiness that you experience after like doing something for yourself, or spending time with the people you love, or just focusing on whatever you're passionate about. So I don't keep up with trends. I don't spend a lot of money on clothes. You probably see me wearing a lot of the same stuff in my videos, and that's honestly because I don't have that many things. It honestly doesn't make me less happy than somebody who does. Disclaimer, I still obviously spend money on things that I do like. I'm not saying I'm a minimalist, obviously, from all the mess here. Somebody asked, how do you invest your money in terms of stocks, real estate, etc.? I don't own any real estate. I do own some real estate index funds, but I don't own any like houses or anything myself. I have a variety of accounts set up. I have like a high yield savings account with my like emergency fund. I have a 401k, I have an HSA that I max out. I have a little bit of money in Robinhood where I mess around with stocks, but that's like a super, super tiny amount of my whole savings. The majority of my money I keep in Wealthfront. I love Wealthfront. I couldn't recommend it enough. It's great for beginners and people who just don't really have the time to like sit there and rebalance their index fund portfolio every month, because sometimes that's just too time consuming. So yeah, highly recommend Wealthfront, especially if you're a beginner. I'll leave my link below if you want to use it. I think you get like a certain amount of money managed for free. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just like, everyone has a referral link, so I'll leave mine below. A couple people asked, what do you do when you're assigned a difficult ticket and you don't know like how to get started? If it's touching like an existing service, I will go to that service and try to get the lay of the land, see where I could implement or like how I could implement the feature I'm looking to implement. So that would be my first thing, is kind of like study the ticket, study any resources linked in the ticket, and then study the code that you think it will be touching. If you're still not really sure where to start, or you still have a lot of questions, having questions when you're assigned a ticket is totally normal. I would reach out to the person who wrote the ticket or even your manager with questions. And then let's say you now know what needs to be done. If you don't know how to implement it, I would reach out to a domain expert on the team. And if you don't know who to reach out to, I would ask your manager and just say, hi, I'm like struggling to figure out how to implement this. Who on the team do you think I could reach out with some questions? Making sure you communicate your thoughts. If someone isn't the best at math and has struggled with math class in the past, what advice would you give them if they wanted to pursue a master's in a STEM related field like data science or computer science? I think for computer science, you need to be good at math insofar that you need to pass like the required linear algebra and the calculus classes that are like part of the curriculum in most colleges. But I don't think you need to be like great at math or like a mathematician for computer science. Now this changes when you're talking about data science and like machine learning and just more data intensive work, because that stuff is essentially like using data to extrapolate some meaning from it, and that you need to have a more statistical mathematical brain for, I believe. But yeah, I don't know, I probably wouldn't let not having been good at math stop me from majoring in computer science. A few people asked about like they're not from the United States and they want to work as a software engineer in the United States. And I always get questions about this. Unfortunately, I'm not the best resource because I am a US citizen and I've been working in the US. So I don't have any experience applying as an international candidate. But what I do know is you need to find a company that will sponsor a visa. Some companies don't, just because it can be a time-consuming and expensive process, but there's a lot of companies that do. Yeah, I don't have any other tips, unfortunately, but I wish you the best of luck. Someone asked how to stay motivated during remote work. I just tell myself that someone's paying me a lot of money to do this job and I need to do it. So I don't know. Other than that, you know, the weekends or like your days off or can be motivating because you like are looking forward to something, you know, planning small like road trips or, you know, think like planning a hike, you know, that can be motivating too, something to look forward to. Someone said, dating back from college to now, how in the world did you manage overwhelming stress and all the tasks on your plate? I think managing your time well takes practice. I've tried a few different things and like they work at different periods of my life. Now I just use Notion and have different columns for my to-do lists, like a YouTube to-do list, a personal to-do list, and then I use my notebook actually for my work to-do lists. I think the stress for me calms down once I write things down because I think part of the stress is like, oh, I'm gonna forget to do this. The other thing is you should think about the things that you want to prioritize. So you might not have time each day to do everything you need to do and then like work out or like watch your favorite TV show or journal. You might not have time every day to like do all those things and do like your school and work. Realizing you don't need to do everything each day in order to get benefit from it. But yeah, time management is a thing that you need to figure out what works out for best for you. For me, it's to-do lists. It's picking one thing a day to work on and not feeling pressured to have to like do everything each day, like journal, read, go to the gym. I don't have to do those things, all of those things each day. Did you have to do a coding challenge for your first suite position? Yes, I had to do them for even internship interviews as well as for all my full-time interviews. A few people asked if I'm not a software engineer, what would I do? I don't know. Actually, I think I would love to do like wedding planning or event planning. That seems like so much fun. I love fashion. I would love to like have gone to fashion school. When I was younger, I wanted to be a lawyer because I loved crime shows and like court shows. So that was a thing. Someone asked if your life became a book, what would it be called? I'm really bad at coming up with things like this on the spot, but something related to consistency. I think consistency is the key to success. So something with that. Someone said, do you get overwhelmed sometimes? Like this job isn't for me or I'm not smart enough? Always. And that's called imposter syndrome. I think everyone experiences it. I had a coffee chat with the chief technology officer. He's like a super smart guy. Even he experiences imposter syndrome. Literally everyone does. And we all undervalue our own skills. You just gotta remember that you're a bad but actually like focusing on your strength and knowing that everyone has their strengths and everyone has things that they need to work on. And that's okay. Like focus on your strength, keep track of your achievements. That can be helpful. I have like a Google Doc of things I've achieved that I view as like important things that I want to remember for myself. And I do that not only for the imposter syndrome help, but also because if I need to write a resume in the future, it'll be helpful. Anyway, one thing that really helps me is with my manager. I let him know, I'm like, this is what I'm doing. I'd love to hear about things that I'm doing well. And then I also ask him, I'd love to hear about things that I could be doing better. Just remember that you don't need to be perfect in a job. Like they expect you to learn and grow into the position. When you're hired, especially as a software engineer, they know that you're like not familiar with the architecture, you're not familiar with the company, or you're not familiar with the exact technologies. Like you will learn, you just got to be willing to learn and grow into the team. So just remember that you don't need to be perfect. Somebody said, what do you enjoy the most about being a software engineer? I love pretty much everything about my job. I love that I work on interesting projects. I like coding and like building things. So that's fun. I like the perks, very flexible, can work remote. Yeah, I like so many things about being a software engineer. When do you know if you're ready or not to leave a small, medium-sized tech company to work at a large tech company? I'm gonna just interpret this as when do you know when you're ready to leave a company? Because you can go from big to small, small to big, whatever way. So I think with software engineers, it's recommended you leave every 2 years. I don't know if that's like something I would follow. I would say, I think usually you get a little bit of a pay bump when you switch companies. I personally would choose to leave when it's not serving me, or when you feel like you've learned or grown as much as you can with that company, or honestly when a new opportunity that excites you more arises. I wouldn't hesitate to switch teams if you feel like you're bored on your current team, you know all the systems. I switched out of my last team because I had learned as much as I could learn from that team and I needed to get a change of scenery, so now I'm on a new team. It was a great decision to switch because it has reinvigorated my passion for work, because I'm challenged with new things that I haven't worked on before. If you don't like the team, if you don't mesh well with the manager or just the company's values, go for it. If you're working and someone reaches out and the company really interests you, whether it's bigger or smaller, like that's an interesting opportunity, definitely feel free to take it. I don't know, it really just depends on your situation. For me though, most times if nothing new arises, it's usually when I get bored. So last question is, what made you want to start YouTube? I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I never had the confidence to do so, and like being stuck in quarantine allowed me to start because I haven't been seeing people much like at work and stuff. So if they come by my videos, which some of them have, but if they come across my videos, like I'm not confronted with them the next day. And that's really the biggest reason I started, which is kind of lame. But yeah, I've always wanted to start a YouTube channel. I love video editing. I've always loved video editing. I used to make a lot of stop motion videos like back in middle school. It's kind of fun documenting my life. On top of like always wanting to start one, in quarantine, I felt a little purposeless, I guess. I kind of felt a little lost in this whole thing of life. I was like, what am I doing? Like, I feel like I'm not, I didn't have things to do that were meaningful after work. I combated that by doing something I always wanted to do, which was start a YouTube channel. And now that I do this, it has given me so much more things to look forward to. I love editing, I love filming, I love interacting with you guys. It's been so nice. Yeah, I don't know, it's filled my heart with so much love and purpose. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but it's kind of that feeling of accomplishment when you've been wanting to do something for so long and you're just going for it now. And I really had nothing to lose. I got over the feeling embarrassed immediately just because you're probably the person that's paying the most attention to you. The amount of criticism and like analyzing I do with my own life, nobody else is doing that to me. It's just in your head. You think people are watching or care, they don't. So I just got over that. You just gotta go out there and do whatever you wanna do. And this is something that I wanted to do for so long, and I'm so proud of myself for doing it now. Yeah, I think we'll end it there. I've been filming for an hour and 13 minutes. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that was helpful. Again, just remember, it's just my opinion. I appreciate you watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you in the next one.